All right, welcome everybody to Employer Solutions Association Plans. This is Eric Johnson, and I am very pleased to announce that we have a special guest with us today who will be joining us in just a few minutes. Mark Bellman from United Healthcare will be here to talk about association health plans. He's a great person to talk about on this topic because United, it's recently been announced, is teaming up with the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce to offer the first association health plan here in the state of Texas following the new rules that we got from the Department of Labor just a few weeks ago. So it did not take them long at all, and so I know everybody is eager to hear what Mark has to say, and so he will be joining us, but we do have to get through a few items first to make sure that we get this set up right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the final rule and about what association plans, maybe the perception of them in the past, and how this new rule is a little bit different, and then we'll get Mark to I guess correct anything that I say that's not correct. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So we'll start off just kind of real simple. What is an association health plan? Well, basically, the idea behind an association health plan is that employers with common business interests join together for the benefit of the member companies. And among the benefits that are available to association members is the ability to purchase health insurance. And ideally, the kind of what we hear again and again is that they're going to be able to use the bargaining power of the association to achieve lower rates. So we'll ask Mark if that's really the way that this works or not, but that's kind of the idea here, is that a group of employers, potentially employers and individuals, join together to purchase health insurance, and and there's power in numbers, right? So how have association plans worked or not worked in the past? Well, in the past, there were some very specific rules. Only employers that met certain requirements were able to join, because you had to meet certain requirements to be part of that association. Companies had to have at least two owners, or an owner and an employee, to join the association health plan. So sole proprietors with no employees were not able to join. You couldn't have a one-person group. The primary reason for forming the association could not be to offer health insurance. So health insurance could be one of the benefits. It could not be the primary reason, though, for employers to join together. Essentially, it's kind of like, employer-sponsored health insurance. Part of the reason we have an employer-based system is those employees don't all go to work for the employer just to purchase health insurance. It's a sort of a random group of people that is being offered insurance. And so in that group, you're likely to have some healthy people and some unhealthy people. So it's sort of the same thing with the associations. You've got a bunch of employers that have joined together, but in the past, they weren't able to do it for the primary purpose of purchasing health insurance. There had to be another reason for them to all kind of join forces, and then you could offer health insurance, to them through that association. So President Trump, he liked this idea when he was running for president. He certainly was not the first one. We have heard about association health plans for years, mostly from the Republican side of the aisle, as a possible way to lower healthcare costs. And again, the big promise that has always been kind of offered as a reason that association plans might work is that bargaining power that they get, that small employers might get access to big company benefits, right? So this executive order was signed last year, October 12th, and it addressed three things. Association health plans was one of them, but also short-term health plans in the individual market. Well, I guess not in the individual market, but short-term health plans for individuals, and health reimbursement arrangements. What the executive order said is, among the myriad areas where current regulations limit choice and competition, my administration will prioritize three areas for improvement in the near term, and listed those three areas. Specifically about association health plans, it said large employers often are able to obtain better terms on health insurance for their employees than small employers because of their larger pools of insurable individuals across which they can spread risk and administrative costs. And so expanding access to association health plans can help small businesses overcome this competitive disadvantage by allowing them to group together to self-insure or purchase large group health insurance. It'll also allow more small businesses to avoid many of the Affordable Care Act's costly requirements. So getting out from under some of the ACA rules was one of the benefits that was listed. And expanding access to association health plans would provide more affordable health insurance options to many Americans, including hourly wage earners, farmers, and the employees of small businesses and entrepreneurs that fuel economic growth. The executive order goes on to say that the administration will continue to focus on promoting competition in healthcare markets and limiting excessive consolidation throughout the healthcare system to the extent consistent with law. Government rules and guidelines affecting the U.S. healthcare system should expand the availability of and access to alternatives to expensive mandate-laden ACA insurance, and that includes the association plans, the short-term plans, and HRAs. Re-inject competition into healthcare markets by lowering barriers to entry and improve access to and the quality of information that Americans need to make informed healthcare decisions. And so within 60 days of the order, the president asked the Secretary of Labor to consider proposing regulations or revising guidance consistent with law to expand access to health coverage by allowing more employers to form AHPs, and to the extent permitted by law and supported by policy, the Secretary should consider expanding the conditions that satisfy the commonality of interest requirements under the DOL's advisory opinions interpreting the definition of an employer under ERISA. So the Secretary of Labor should consider ways to promote AHP formation on the basis of common geography or industry. So the reason I wanted to go through all of that is because that is exactly what happened in the final rules. The executive order was issued in October of 2017. We got the proposed rule on association health plans in February, and that rule was finalized in June. So pretty quick process. We now have the final rules. We know the rules of the game and what's changed. Before we look at the new rules, though, I do want to mention this is not a new idea. I'm a pack rat, and I keep everything basically. So quick search of my computer, I was able to find from the Tahoe Cafe. Many of you are members of the Texas Association of Health Underwriters. They have an email-based forum, and this was an email from 2005. And it was about the newly touted association plans, right? These AHPs would not be subject to state-mandated benefit laws and so would have a pricing advantage over the fully insured small group health insurance markets, blah, blah, blah. So, that's, 13 years ago. They were talking about AHPs. In 2006, I went to Washington as part of NAHU's CAP conference and came back and sat on a panel for the Fort Worth Association of Health Underwriters, where we kind of did a recap of the meeting. And you can see in the second paragraph here, Roy Ramthan, a senior healthcare advisor to the president, he was Bush's top advisor on HSAs. He conducted a briefing, and in it he talked about a number of different things, HSAs and so forth. But at the same time, we were also talking about association health plans. He did say that he's not an advisor on AHPs, but he knows a little about them and knows that AHPs will not solve all of the problems. It's just one proposal. They know that NAHU, this is important, is against allowing association plans to be self-insured. But anyway, he just went on, and it's an idea that Republicans have liked for quite a while. NAHU had a position paper on AHPs dating back to 2006. They opposed the current legislation to create new federally mandated exemptions for association health plans. And, so they basically just talked about some of the risks of allowing for that type of coverage. So we won't go through all of it, but basically the big arguments against association health plans that we've heard in this industry for a long time is that they can destabilize the market even more than it already is, right? There are winners and there are losers in anything the government gets involved in, right? We saw that with the Affordable Care Act with modified adjusted community rating. Some employers saw their premiums go down. So the ones that were losing under the old rules won under the new rules. Some employers saw their premiums go up. The ones that were winning under the old rules lose under the new rules. So anything has trade-offs, right? And with association health plans, it's the same way. There are winners and there are losers. And the argument is the losers leave, the price goes up. The losers in this case are the ones that could get lower cost insurance elsewhere. So the ones that see their price go up, right? So the losers leave because they were the good risk. The price goes up for everybody else. More groups leave, and eventually it spirals out of control. That is what I have heard. I've been in the industry now for 21 years. I've been in the group side of things for about 17, and I have heard this argument for the past 17 years against association health plans. And as an example of it, let's say that you have 5 groups, right? And let's say that separate from the association, these 5 groups would have had employee premiums ranging from $300 a month up to $700 a month, $2,500 total, so an average of $500. Okay, well, at $500 average for the association plan, that one that could get $300 insurance elsewhere is probably going to say, you know what, there's no reason for us to pay 67% more, so we're going to leave and go elsewhere, right? So they go to a level funded plan or they find some other option, right? So that now leaves 4 groups, but the new average premium is $550. Well, at $550, the one that's paying, or they could get a $400 premium elsewhere says sayonara, they leave, and the new average goes up to $600, and so on and so forth. So basically, as the better risks leave because they lose under this group pricing, then basically the price goes up for everybody else and it spirals out of control. That's the argument that we've always heard, right? That said, this is not the same thing. The association health plans that, as they're spelled out in the final rule that we just got from the Department of Labor, they are not the same concept that we were discussing a decade ago. And hopefully, as Mark chimes in here in just a moment, he'll be able to kind of clarify a little bit and shed some light on why we should not think of association health plans now the way that we thought about them then. So what I would just ask is that, as you enter this, this discussion, keep an open mind, right? Just because we've questioned association health plans as a solution in the past does not mean that we should reject them now. The rules have changed. Each time the rules change, new solutions emerge. Before the Affordable Care Act, we would have never considered self-funding down to 5 lives. We would have never considered these skinny plans for large employers that cover little more than preventive care. We would have never considered healthcare sharing ministries in lieu of actual insurance, right? But you might be recommending all of those to your clients these days. So the Affordable Care Act has really caused us to rethink things. Because it changed the rules, it also changed the solutions, right? So I've had this slide. This isn't the first time I've used this slide or talked about association plans. And at the time that I created the slide, I said, my prediction is we will see an AHP solution that you will want to consider for your clients. And lo and behold, that might actually be true now. So we got the final rules on association health plans back in June. It's 198 pages long. We are not going to go through the 198 pages, right? There's a couple of things I want to mention. One is that we didn't quote this part of the executive order, but in the executive order, President Trump sort of grouped association health plans and insurance across state lines together as if they were one solution. They can be, but it is not necessary for association plans to offer coverage across state lines. And so the final rule focuses less on that idea, the insurance across state lines, and more on a change to the definition of commonality of interest and the rating rules for association health plans. So, I don't know if it was the last time I saw Mark, but just a few months ago, I was down in Austin. It was March 23rd. It was the 8-year anniversary of the Affordable Care Act. And I actually did a class there called Insurance Across State Lines. What a dumb idea, right? So there are a lot of arguments against insurance across state lines, but that is a separate discussion from association health plans. There's nothing that says that AHPs have to be across state lines. So looking at those final rules, it's 198 pages long. I'm going to put them on one slide. There's four main things that changed. It changed the definition of commonality of interest as was requested in the executive order. The purpose of an association, it changed that, made a tweak to the employers that can join, and then made a change to the rating rules. So here are basically what the changes were. In the past, it explained the commonality of interest rules for employers joining together and joining an association health plan. Well, now with the new rules, employers in the same geographic area within a state or the same metro area, even if it crosses state lines, can now band together and form these association health plans. The purpose of the association health plan, in the past, the primary purpose could not be the purchase of health insurance. That could be one of the benefits, but it could not be the primary reason. That can now be the primary reason. The proposed rules originally said it could be the only reason. Some people objected to that. Some commenters objected. And so now what they said in the final rules is that forming or joining together to purchase health insurance, through an association health plan can be the primary reason for forming an association. It cannot be the only reason. There has to be a secondary benefit, to the members. As for who can join, it's not required that the association offer coverage to everybody, but it can now offer sole proprietors that have no employees to join an association and participate in an association health plan. So that is permitted by the rules. And then the rating rules, this was a big one. If we have time, toward the end of the presentation, I'll show you what the rule says about this. But essentially it says that in the past, that in most cases when an employer would join an association and buy health insurance through that association, they were essentially just being rated as if they were in the small group or large group market, depending on how many employees that particular company had. And under the new rules, the rating rules that apply, small group or large group, so we're talking about a fully insured association health plan, the small group or large group rules which set of rules applies is going to depend on how many employees all of the employers together that are part of that association plan have. So basically, if they exceed 50, then they're going to play by the large group rules. And I think what you're going to see here is that's a big part of the appeal here, is it allows a carrier to apply a different set of rating rules, something different than modified adjusted community rating when coming up with the prices for these small groups that might be part of the association. That's where some of the premium savings can happen. So will any association plans be offered here in Texas? This was language that I included when I was filing this class for approval with TDI. I said it's possible that one of the major insurance carriers could offer an association plan. The association is unlikely to offer benefits across state lines, as that might require a repeal of McCarran-Ferguson, which is an existing law that's been around for years. The advantage to the carrier of offering an association plan is that it would help the carrier avoid the modified adjusted community rating rules. And then I put in there, how soon might this become an option? Well, here's the answer to the question. The Lubbock Chamber of Commerce in the middle of August, so just a couple of weeks ago, 15 days ago, announced that they are going to be offering new health insurance plan options for small business members of that association, made possible by the association health plan rules issued by the U.S. Department of Labor last month. The Chamber is targeting an effective date for the new West Texas Employer Health Plan as early as October 1st, and they have partnered with United Healthcare to do that. So, I had some questions. Again, this was part of my filing for the course. I said, we want to try to answer these questions in the course. What are the benefits of a fully insured, benefits of an association health plan versus a fully insured plan or a level funded plan? Which individuals or groups are most likely to benefit? What will the rates look like? What will be the biggest alternative to these plans for the target audience? And then how are they going to work in practice, all the way from quoting to enrollment to renewal, and how will brokers be paid? So that was sort of the thing that I wanted to figure out, that I thought that you might be interested in. So before we bring Mark on, let's do a quick attendance check and survey, and find out what your initial thoughts are here on association health plans. So if everybody could chime in. If you can't access the poll for some reason, you can send me an email at eric@comedyce.com. All right, almost all of you have voted. I'm going to give you just another second here. All right, let's go ahead and close the poll and share it with you. So we had 100 people signed up for the call, or 97, I think. 85 of you are on. So just to kind of give you an idea there, 60% of you say that you are intrigued by the idea, but you're still a little bit nervous. And let's see, I clicked off of it. 21% of you say that you love the idea. 10% don't think it'll be a good solution. Only 1% hates the idea, and then 7% don't sell group products. So it, overwhelmingly, this seems to be popular, although, a popular idea, although, you may still need some answers. I will tell you this: there's one person just chimed in through the question box and said, I have groups that have been asking for this for years. I spoke at an event this morning, and there were 200 employers there, and of the whole presentation, that was the thing that people were most curious about. So this is a popular idea among employers. So whatever you think about it right now, what I will tell you is this is something clients are going to want to know about, and the more you know about it, the better chance you have of keeping the client's attention. So with that, let's go ahead and talk with Mark Bellman. Mark is the Vice President of Small Group Sales for United Healthcare for the state of Texas. Mark, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I didn't realize you had a mirror app on this.
Well, only the best technology here. So, all right. So let's go ahead and dive into this. I mean, before asking you any questions, any of the questions I really want to get to, let me throw these two things out. Number one, you saw the survey results, so I'm assuming you're encouraged by the fact that more than 80% of the attendees seem excited about the idea of association plans, just may need some more info. And then second, did I miss anything? I mean, I tried to boil 198 pages down to one, so I'm sure I missed something, but are these the main points, would you agree, behind the new rules?
Eric, I think you did an excellent job of covering this. And let me tell you, I have not been this excited about a change in the law since, introducing self-funded in small business for Texas, and then since 12-1 was an E11. I think this has the opportunity to completely change the landscape of small business. And to give you a sense of how big of an impact this is, based upon my analysis of it, and I guess I'm a bit partisan on this, and the day that this law came out, on June 19th at 11:25 a.m., at 198 pages, I've read it twice since then, and we were all over this back in February when the preliminary regs came out as well. But just to give you a sense of the potential impact of this law, this regulation. Based upon our analysis, we think that 50% of the small group market could realize between 5 and 15% savings in premiums versus ACR as a result of this. That's what the potential could be as a result of the executive order. Now, obviously, our work with the Lubbock Chamber, we got that off the ground really quickly. And let me tell you, I can't believe it was only just a couple weeks ago. It was last week, actually, when we did the press conference up in Lubbock, and Congressman Jody Arrington was there to talk about it. He had, staffers from the governor and the senators, both Cornyn and Cruz had folks there. And then what happened next, Eric, which was really interesting and really opened my eyes as to how we as an industry have to approach this. Senator Ted Cruz reposted this on his Facebook page, and within minutes, 500 comments appeared, and all these people were sharing, and there was a ton of trolling and, quite frankly, fake news that was out there. People were saying that, I'm not kidding. I mean, people were saying this is one of those skinny plans. It has pre-X in there. You can't get covered. There's probably limitations and dollar amounts, and maternity is not covered. Neither are prescription drugs. And our reaction to this was, oh my gosh, I've never seen this kind of vitriol. Here we have to defend what we're selling. And what you said was really interesting. The whole idea of this is small employers getting together to have the leverage or bargaining power of large group. And that is, in a sense, correct. But really what it is small employers getting together to access large group rules and benefits. So we made it very clear on the FAQs on the Lubbock Chamber landing site that these were our most popular plans. These weren't skinny plans. These covered all the things that are supposed to cover. There are most popular 51 to 100 plans that large employers enjoyed the whole time, that they think are great. And how we achieve those savings is the key here. When what you talked about is absolutely true. Unlike ACR, and if y'all think about it, what are the factors that drive ACR? It's very simplified, right? You have age band, and what's the restriction, Eric, on age band and ACR? 3 to 1, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which, ideally, it sounds like it would help older workers, and what we saw is that isn't always the case. It seemed to hurt the younger people more than it helped the older people, right?
Yeah. So you have 3 to 1, and then you can't even use gender, and it's your zip code, right? Those are pretty much the only factors. Now, what this opens the door to, we continue to not be allowed in the geographical ACR environment. We're not allowed to medically underwrite. I want to be very clear, because everybody was saying, trolling on Ted Cruz's page on this, on the repost of this, that, it's pre-X, they must rate up for health. No, none of that. The rules are very clear. With geographical AHPs, now that's very different than trade-based, which are allowed to exist today, which operate under the old rules. They can medically underwrite. This is totally different. It's a geographical function. You cannot medically underwrite. But what can you do? There are no limits on HBAN. You can rate for the 2 genders that we're able to understand at the moment. So the 2 genders are allowed, okay? You can rate by SIC code. You can have a factor for contribution. You can have group size factors. So all those things that are a function of large group, with the exception of medical underwriting, are fair play in the AHP environment. So it doesn't take a genius in our industry to go look at this and go, oh my gosh, this is a better mousetrap than ACR. And now I think when you do the math, you can understand why it's beneficial to 50% of the market. Folks, I am telling you, I haven't been this excited since those other 2 events, and probably more excited about what's going to happen here, especially in Texas for small employers as time progresses.
Yeah, and if I could just remind everybody, you were the one in 2013 saying 12-1 is the new 1-1, and I know there's still an awful lot of brokers that a lot of their healthier small groups have a 12/1 renewal date, and that was because of a trend that you were very much responsible for starting and kind of getting rolling. And then transitional plans. You and I did some classes on that, but the transitional relief, which at the time was a great option for those 12/1 groups, and then when the level funding solution came out, you were right about that. I mean, it took a little bit of education, but I did a poll on just a very recent class on level funding, and an awful lot of the brokers that attended said that they have a lot of level funded group clients now. So you've had a pretty good track record on predicting kind of what the next trend is going to be for at least a percentage of the group market. And so I'm pleased to hear that you're excited about association health plans and see the potential here. I guess one question that I have, so basically, in the same way that when you move to level funding, you're avoiding modified adjusted community rating. So for a healthy small group, the level funded plans make more sense. With an association health plan, it doesn't necessarily have to be a healthy group, since you take everybody and you're not going to medically underwrite, but it really needs to be a group with those good case characteristics, the good SIC codes that aren't going to generate an industry load, and maybe young males as part of the population. Is that correct or not?
Absolutely. I mean, I think your question here is, what will be the biggest alternative to what's the target audience, right? What is the target audience? And I think it's larger, small employers that have younger males. And when I was we rolled it out in Lubbock yesterday. About 70 brokers were there at the Texas Tech Club. And talked to a lot of them. We knew from the association, and some folks I didn't know, but we talked about this to everyone there. They said, well, of course, everybody wants the younger, larger, small group males with the better industry code. Of course, that's funny, Mark. But I said to them, yeah, everybody wants them, but how many can rate lower for them, right? Now, I know since we've sold a ton of All-Savers in the state of Texas, over the last few years, that's been the avenue for a lot of those groups. But one of the biggest barriers to selling an ASO product in small business is just the work that's involved, all the information you have to collect, whether it's medical information, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what the AHPs do is it's kind of the in-between for that. That market will still exist for the people willing to do the work to get the absolute best rates for their healthiest groups that's willing to do the work. And then you have ACR on the other end of the spectrum, which is, we are only looking at those two factors, right? You're a 3-to-1 age band and your location, right? Well, in between that, in that big gap in between that, those two products, that's where AHP sits, because all the other factors that ACR can't account for can be accounted for AHP. But unlike dealing with the self-level funded side of things, there's no medical conditions. So that's where this falls, and that's where the groups that were getting in the olden days before the ACA, that were getting the no loads, not the ones that were getting the 67% loads, right? Getting the no loads, or the slight loads, the low amount of loads. Those are the groups that will really benefit from this. And the reason I think it's going to be big is because there's no medical underwriting, because of the process is identical to what you do to get an ACR rate. Just provide us the census, provide us the group information, which you have, and whammo, you just get, if you have the right demographics, you fall in the right half of the pie, you will get a better rate than ACR. It's that simple.
So basically, this is a fully insured product, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and that's the other key point too. I mean, if this were, this is not your grandfather's association plan, right? I mean, in the past, you could have a fly-by-night going out there, not exactly, having the investment to make things work, and you could have an entity that just has a slew of bad risk, and then boom, it all blows up. You know what the ACA did? It just made it really difficult for smaller entities to enter into health insurance. I mean, you had to have the capital to do this. So yeah, it's fully insured. It's got the full backing of United Healthcare on this.
Okay, great. And I know, obviously this is a CE class, so this is, anything but a commercial for United or anybody else. But to be fair, you don't have any right now. I mean, there's one association health plan under the new rules in the state of Texas. It's being offered by United, and it is being offered in the Lubbock area for members of the Lubbock Chamber. Would it be safe to assume that will not be the only association health plan that we'll see in the state of Texas? Or,
Eric, over the last few weeks, I've had more meetings and meetings on top of meetings about AHPs, and a lot of people have been calling. So all I can say to your audience is stay tuned and don't be surprised.
Got it. Okay. Let me ask just a couple of other questions. We did have one person that said they'd kind of like to see the meat and potatoes of it. The administration. How do you get to the rates and so forth? One thing that I want to comment on before we get into that is, I've been talking in a lot of classes recently about how the market is becoming increasingly segmented. For individuals, certain individuals should buy coverage through healthcare.gov. Others should buy coverage in the outside market, and others should go to short-term plans if they're healthy starting in 2019. Small group market, I think we're seeing the same thing. Certain employers are going to do better in a level funded plan. Certain employers are going to do better in a fully insured, small group plan. And then some might do better in this fully insured association plan. And as you said, versus the fully insured ACA metallic plans, if you kind of divide it down the middle, about half of employers out there are going to have the case characteristics that are going to make it where they'll have a better rate through this, and half won't. Correct?
Bingo.
There we go. All right. So could you explain just a little bit? I know you said that it's pretty easy to get the quote. Can you kind of just real quickly walk us through, quoting to actually signing up for coverage? What does that look like? How does it compare with, maybe the normal process for a fully insured small group plan?
So let me just say this. This is pretty amazing. Not only is Lubbock first in Texas, I think they may be first in the nation of its kind, quite frankly, because I do have kind of line of sight to the developments across the country on this. So as a result, a lot of our processes are catching up to it. It's not going to be completely automatic like, on our online systems, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going to work a little bit manual initially. So we're ramping up to have the quoting. So again, like I said, as far as quoting, you just send in the census. It's what you would require for an ACR quote, essentially. There's no difference. The only difference is what we're taking into factor in developing those rates, those different things. Enrollment, like anything else, it's just like that. Rating.
No medical questionnaires to fill out because that's not one of the factors. So it's just
exactly.
Got it.
It's going to be an enrollment form very much like your ACR enrollment form. It's just the facts, man. Right? We're just getting the information. It's your demographics, that count. The rating, like I mentioned earlier, those are we just take into more factors than ACR. That's the difference. Just more factors. Application, I don't know what you mean by that. I guess the employer application, I presume.
Right.
That's one thing to keep in mind, because this is a large employer, because the association is essentially a large employer. That's going to be the owner of the policy. There's going to be, we have an application that the employer does to be a part of it. They'll have to be a member. There's going to be a verification process to make sure that they're in good standing, because if they're not, then they could be terminated from it. And each membership in each of the associations can be different. Some of them maybe require the broker to be a member to sell. and not just the employer. Some may not. It all depends upon the situation. The renewal will likely work on a block basis because it's largely small group. It's probably going to be aggregated as a total, and let's say the whole group deserves an X percentage increase, then everything will move accordingly. As far as commissions, this is a good question. I can't speak for any other carrier out there, but I can speak for United Healthcare. I can tell you that at United we're working through brokers. Now there may be, I've heard about other situations where somebody would create one where they funnel it all through one particular broker, so you cannibalize, they take business away from small employers. We don't believe in that at all, because we believe in the small business broker in the state of Texas. Therefore, it's open to all brokers with United. Now, the commissions, because this is 100 plus, or actually 50 plus, because it's large group, there's a big difference between MLR because of the PACE Act, right? What did the PACE Act that NAHU passed a few years ago allow us to do in the state of Texas? Define small group where we wanted to. And where did we define it? We defined it at 50, right? Small group went up to 50 AT&E, and over 50 was considered large group. Now, one of the catches in that is that when you fall into the large group criteria, MLR changes from 80 to 85. So there's a lot more financial pressures on the carrier as a result. So I can't speak for anybody else that may do an AHP in the future, but at the moment, like you said, Eric, we're the only ones, and our commissions will be on a service fee basis. But this is interesting. The fee has to be set by the AHP as a whole. Now, Eddie McBride, the CEO of the Lubbock Chamber, he set it at the same level as fully insured. Now, fully insured with us is at 4.5%, but if you do a service fee, the equivalent is 4.71. It's called math because if you add the commission to the premium, it's actually higher than 4.5 because you're getting actually a percentage of the commission as part of your premium. As part of your commissions for you brokers out there. So that's why it's at 4.71. But technically speaking, the AHP sets that basis across the board for everyone, and Eddie has set it at 4.71. And I would imagine that moving forward, that would be the same. So, at United Healthcare, at least, our approach on this is completely small business broker friendly. We're not out there to shut anybody out, but I can't speak for anybody else's strategy on that because I know it has happened in the past.
Got it. Okay. And I know you do have to run early, so hopefully you stick with me about 3 minutes longer. Let me ask you a couple of questions that have come in. There's an awful lot of questions for from the audience, but one of the questions has to do with the quoting. Does it are the brokers requesting, like in the Lubbock Chamber, are they getting the quote from the chamber? Is there somebody there they go through and then they send it to United? Do you go to United and say, can I get a quote for this group? They're a member of the chamber. Like, that seems, there's an extra entity there, and I think people are a little confused about that. And then it's not the same question, but just the whole idea of there being a separate entity. One person asked, since there's not an employer-employee relationship between the association and the employee, can they pay with tax-free dollars? I'm going to go ahead and guess the answer is yes, but that kind of brings up the bigger point of billing. Is the employer, are they paying the association, which is turning around and paying United? Like, can you give me a little more idea on the nuts and bolts of that?
That's a great question. So technically speaking, part of the administrative services agreement that we put together with the chamber is that we handle all the premium billing and collection. The whole purpose of this is to make it look and feel just as a regular course of business for the small business employer, so that it's not anything too funky or different. And the only real difference is, of course, you have to be a member of the association, be in good standing, etc. There will be some little nuances, some attestation things, and some minor things that could be a little bit different than regular course of business for small business. We're working to minimize those, and I would urge your audience to be a little bit patient about this because we don't have all the answers, but most of the answers we've got hammered out there. For instance, we've got some questions about COBRA. It's likely that groups under 20 will be subject to COBRA because it's part of a larger group. So there's just some of the minor things that we're hammering through, but by and large, it should have the look and feel very much like the process of small business day to day.
Got it. Okay. And you know what? One person asked a question that I know the answer to just from my conversations with you, but to make sure everybody understands, is it a community rate for the entire association, or does each employer that's part of the association get a different rate based on their demographics?
That is correct. It's different.
The second part. Okay.
It's the second part. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. There are a million other questions, and I know you have to run. What I'm going to do, we've got 10 minutes left in the webinar, so I'm going to go through a few more items with everybody, and but at the end, I'm going to give everybody a chance to ask any other questions. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but if there's any difficult ones I can't answer, would it be possible to send those to you and maybe get you to
Absolutely.
2 of us
I'm here.
we can put those answers out there for everybody, because I know nobody's going to have better questions than the brokers that have to deal with these clients, and so we want to make sure we get them the right answers.
It would be my pleasure. I'm here to spread the word. I want to get the 60% of the folks that are a little bit nervous to be completely comfortable. I want them in the top category. And that 1% that's not interested, I want to talk to you too, because I'm going to change your mind.
You've got your challenge, right?
Yes.
Well, hey, Mark, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Congratulations. There was one person that did ask, do you know of anyone else that's entering this space? I know you said that right now, y'all are in Lubbock, and, we'll see what happens, but have you heard of any others forming, any rumors of it, or is it still too early to tell?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would throw it back at the audience. I mean, you guys have your ears on the ground. I've certainly been on the lookout, but let me just say this. I don't think it will be long before everyone is doing it.
In other words, this probably isn't a one-off, and we don't need to have groups in McAllen looking to join the Lubbock Chamber to take advantage of this. There may be some other options.
Yeah, remember, these are geographic. To be in the Lubbock Chamber, it's in the 34 counties, so it's geographic. There will be more opportunities there for brokers to help their clients. I promise you.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thank you for helping to break the news here in this webinar. And for the audience, like I said, I'll get with Mark and we'll get you answers to some of the questions here. Everybody else, stick with me. Mark, I'll let you run because I know you have an appointment, but we're going to chat for a couple more minutes on the call. So
thanks, everyone. I'll take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So hopefully, I know that didn't answer all your questions clearly because I saw some of the questions coming through, but hopefully it at least gives you enough info to realize this might be a good solution for clients real soon. We're not quite there yet in most areas. One plan from one carrier in one specific geographic region, normally would not get people excited. But if it's possible that either through United we'll see more options, or we'll see some additional carriers coming in and jumping on this idea, hopefully you see how this is a little bit different from the way association plans have kind of operated in the past. So I know that many of you are downloading the slides and wanting to refer back to them afterwards. So while we won't completely read through this, I did from that 198 pages, I did just snip a few pieces of the final rule to give you some actual language from it. So it starts off with just some of the reason that they're doing this, through AHPs, employers band together to purchase health coverage, blah, blah, blah. AHPs may also help reduce the cost of health coverage to participating employer members by giving groups of employers increasing bargaining power. So that idea is continuing here. But then it goes on to talk about the number of people that might enroll. They actually say that the Congressional Budget Office has predicted that 400,000 people who would have been uninsured will enroll in AHPs, and another 3.6 million people will enroll in AHPs who have had other coverage. So they might move from the fully insured ACA metallic plans into a AHP, for instance. So about 4 million people they think will be enrolled in association health plans, or additional people. There's some here, or some language here about the look-through doctrine, which basically talks about the way that groups that have joined, some of these trade associations in the past might have been rated based on the size of each individual employer participating in the group, where under the new rules, basically they're going to be treated as a single group health plan, where whether the AHP would be buying insurance in the large or small group market is going to be determined by reference to the total number of employees of all the member employers. So that is I think an important point. There is some additional guidance here from from the Department of Labor. So they actually have some frequently asked questions on their website about this new option. So they have some intro language, and then their frequently asked questions have to do with how association health plans work. Are they subject to the consumer protections? Can an AHP cherry pick plan participants? That was one Mark talked about. They are not able to cherry pick or discriminate based on health or prior conditions. That's part of the final rule. Can AHPs vary premiums based on health factors? No, they're not able to do that. How does the rule expand coverage options for the self-employed? Self-employed individuals who employ other individuals have always been able to join an AHP. Under the new rule, self-employed individuals with no other employees can also join an AHP along with their families. That does not seem to be a requirement. It's just something that is allowed under the rule. So whether it's United or somebody else, they may or may not allow that. Will states have regulatory oversight of AHPs under the final rule? Yes, the final rule does not diminish state oversight. Remember, this is a fully insured plan, so it is going to fall under the jurisdiction of the Department of Insurance here in Texas. Does the rule impact existing AHPs, existing association health plans, maybe through a trade association or something? No, the new rule does not affect them. New plans can also form and elect to follow either the old guidance or the new rules. There is also, there was a August 20th compliance assistance update from the Department of Labor, so you can click on that link and learn more about that if you would like. So I want to finish up here. We've just got we've got about 4 minutes left, and so I want to do another. We'll count this as an attendance check. So I'd like everybody to chime in. I know you did the poll. Just are you excited? What do you think? But give me a few more details. Do you think this is going to be a good solution? And really more importantly, what questions do you still need answered? So if you haven't already typed a question in, but you need that answered before you would feel comfortable recommending it to your group clients, go ahead and chime in if you would. Like I said, I'll run those back through, with Mark and look for other answers, and we will end up posting those to that same page where the videos are being posted. So I'll give you a minute or two to answer that. I'm going to read a couple of the responses, and then we will call it a day. All right, as the questions are coming in, a couple of people have had a question about, can a broker organize an association health plan and earn commissions off of it? The answer, I've actually asked Mark that before. The answer is no. A broker can't. A insurance company can't form the association. It needs to be another group. And I believe a nonprofit. And what he said here is the opportunity really is in selling these. It's not in trying to set them up and manage it. But there's quite a few questions and comments. Some people are saying they feel a little bit better about the idea now that they've heard some of these. Heard Mark talk and we've gone through the details, but it sounds like everybody still wants more info. One person has said it's still very early on. I would need a lot more specifics and details. That with any of these new products, it takes a while to get up and running. Another said, I think it's a good idea for the struggling groups who are having to choose whether, to continue offering health coverage or not. Another says, I'm excited about it. I hope this gives small business employers another solution. Here's one comment that I would like to make, because I think that some people are still hung up on the idea of association health plans, the young ones bailing or young healthy groups bailing, going and doing something else, and it's spiraling out of control. Kind of the math I showed earlier. If you think about it, that's kind of what's happening already in the fully insured group market, right? The ACA metallic plans can't medically underwrite. The carrier can't medically underwrite. As Mark said, there's only a couple factors they can look at. It's pretty much age and zip code, right, when coming up with the rates. And so we do have adverse selection in the small group market, just like we have adverse selection in the individual market. So, theoretically, small group and individual, both of those, over the last few years have been somewhat spiraling out of control. The groups that have an alternative, those that can go to level funding, or those that never enter the market because they have a transitional plan, they don't contribute that healthy premium. It really is more, unhealthy groups in the market. Some groups, though, are too small to go level funded. Maybe they have one sick employee, and it doesn't make sense for them. Some groups, just go fully insured because the HMO rates beat even what they could do on a level funding basis or whatever. So there's some healthy premium as well in the small group market. But the fact is, while some groups are bailing, there's a lot that don't, because there's frankly not a lot of other options. If AHPs can allow groups that have the good case characteristics, the good demographics, to play by a different set of rules and actually be rewarded for the lower risk that they pose to the insurance company, then it's possible the insurance company can actually offer them some lower rate. So yes, while theoretically, at any point you could have anybody that can find a better option bail and go find that option, and something can spiral out of control. I mean, that argument makes sense. The fact is, there aren't a ton of other options out there. So it does make sense that these association plans, rather than getting the worst risks, might actually get some of the better risks in the market. So, I know we're at our time limit, so we're going to go ahead and end it here. There are an awful lot of questions. Like I said, I will do my best to kind of group those together and get them answered. May take a day or two. I do want to run them by Mark, but we will post those answers on the same web page as all of the videos and the slides. So thank you very much. Hope you learned a little something, and look forward to seeing you on some of the other webinars. Thank you very much. Bye.